I'm the pine.
And I'm the water. Oh my god, I'm sorry.
She can't do it. See, when I get it right, she can't do it.
Well, and you're listening to A Cup of Tea.
A podcast about exploring life through each other's eyes.
Well, sharing a cup of tea with you.
Woo woo!
So what's your cup of tea of the day?
Today, I have
That does not
thermos.
look like a cup?
It is not. It is my thermos because I always end up having lukewarm tea when I like really hot from hell tea.
Yeah.
So today I decided to go with my thermos, and it's Bengal spice chai tea.
Well, I'm repeating last week's caramel puer, which is growing on me. I'm liking it.
So you say, but I'm not sold.
I swear.
I'm not convinced.
No, I know you can't trust me. The whole mint chip tobacco.
No.
But it's not bad at all.
Sure. All right. What's our topic of today?
I was like, there's a huge part of me that wanted this to be the topic today, but I also have my reservations about it. You know, like I'm like, oh, are we really? Is this gonna? I don't know.
Why?
Because on the one hand, this is something that I think it's like very you and me, and it's like our inside joke. It's not necessarily that it's a joke, but
it is like a you and me thing.
Yeah. And also because I feel very close to it right now, so I'm like, you know?
Yeah.
So the topic today is this thing that ages ago, like, what? When did?
I'm guessing somewhere in high school.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure it's around the time that the last Twilight movie came out, or one of the two last Twilight movies came out. Mm-hmm. And we spent a summer, basically it was the entire summer of that year, watching and rewatching and I think rereading the Twilight movies and books.
Yes.
And so we
times.
developed this thing that we call the Twilight mood. Mm-hmm. Which, how would you explain it? How would you define it?
Like, that's the thing, you know, when you told me that we might be talking about this, I was like, I don't know, because it's such a you and me thing that we've never really talked about what it is or how it feels. We just kind of knew and it made sense.
Yes.
So now if we talk about it, I'm like, what if we find out that it's not the same thing for each of us? You know?
Oh my god. No, I think it is though.
And we've been like all these years talking about our Twilight mood, and it ends up being totally different experiences.
Oh, that would be heartbreaking.
A little, but you know, from our previous personality tests, I'm like feeling pretty sure that it will be the same.
I think it's gonna be 99% the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay.
So the Twilight mood is Jesus, it's so odd to describe because
I know.
It totally gives you these vibes from the movies where it's like cold and wintry but beautiful, and it's this kind of melancholy, but it's not heavy kind of. It's just like it's nice. It's like cuddling. Like no, because I don't want it to sound like cute and warm and sweet, because that's not the feeling.
No,
it's kind of like a loneliness.
Yeah. Yes.
But it feels kind of good.
Yeah. It's like reveling in your loneliness, kind of, I would say.
Yeah, but I also don't want it to sound like
forever
victimizing, or like, it's not like that. It's like it feels good.
Yeah. Yes. And it's like I would add like a yearning for like something, you know, for
yes, I agree.
Specifically because it's a very Twilight is a romantic book, and the movies are also romance. It's sort of like that vibe of like, oh, I want to have like an Edward Cullen sort of thing.
Yeah, it kind of goes for me at least, it's not, there is that yearning, and it's more for like the story, like not precisely a guy, but like the adventure and like the story, and you know what I mean?
Yes, I know, because that's exactly, which brings me to why I wanted to talk about this. So, I told you yesterday that I was reading this book called, I think they translated just like Through My Window or something. The Spanish title is A Través de mi ventana, and Netflix released a movie based on the book. I would say loosely based on the book. And the book gave me that vibe so much. Like, after reading it, and I don't want to spoil it for you because I know that you're going to read it still. Or I hope that you're going to read it. You should totally read it.
I might. I don't know when.
I mean, after whatever, yeah. I was just... So, it's about this girl who's in high school and who falls for her neighbor. So, it's, that in the same universe of the Twilight books, where it's like teenage romance of like the first time you fall in love and the adventures that go with it. And so I was like, oh, I want that so much. And of course, it's not going to be like, I'm not in high school. It's not going to be the first time I fall in love. But it's that sense of exciting stuff and like newness and adventure. And like, oh my God, what will it feel like to get to get to know someone and to like fall in love and the whole adventure of it. And so, yeah, I was like, oh, Jesus.
Is it only sort of romantic for you?
No, it can also be just, I would say it's not maybe as atmospheric as it is for, because I think for you it is a lot more like, the word hygge comes to mind, but I don't know that that's exactly it. But
Remind me what that is?
I
have a sense of what that is, but
Danish thing of like being cozy up in like a little nook with a book and
kind of, but that sounds warm. This is like the cold version of that.
Yes.
If that makes any sense. If there is a word in whatever language for like that, but in cold.
Yeah. So it's a combination of the it for me definitely has the romance component, the romance
so eloquent.
component. Yes. But it's also this like aloneness, not loneliness necessarily, but it's like a little emo.
I can totally feel that.
And the whole vibe of like, life. I don't know. I don't know that defines it. I now I don't quite know how to put it into words, but.
Well, now the emo thing, it has me like with a bunch of different images, and I'm like, I don't know about that, but I know what you mean. It's. I wonder if people have this sort of, because I guess it became the Twilight mood because it's something that you just get from watching the movies, I feel like, and even the books. But I feel like the movies do a great job, if at anything, at portraying the Twilight mood, where it's like this sort of like classical music and like the cold images and the forests and the snow and and making it so pretty, because vampires are so pretty. So it's like very pretty and cold and foresty and wintry. And the aloneness, I feel like it's very important to it.
And I just got a flashback of like having that sort of feeling of this one year when I went to a competition in Canada, and we were there's this town, I think it's famous relatively, called Banff, and it's like touristy, and everybody like camping and stuff. Yes. And so one morning, it was me and some girls from dance school and my teacher and other parents and stuff. We were walking from, I think, like from a Tim Hortons to the hotel or something. And that walk to me was like, oh, yes, this is it.
I
It's like
know.
that like it's chilly and it's not freezing. It's just kind of like chilly and drizzly and nice.
I know. And you know, like hearing you talk about it, and I'm remembering that I used to get the Twilight mood a lot, like a lot.
Oh, I know.
You know, and we would talk about it so much. And I remember for so much of sort of my teen years, but like when I lived in Canada for a year, or when I would travel, or when I would be by myself, especially if I was traveling, if I was abroad, if I was by myself. Definitely if I go to like an airport by myself, I kind of get that. And when I was living in Canada before, if I took a walk somewhere, like in the back of the school, because it was super foresty, or if I went, even if I was like going to the mall, if I was like with myself, or you know what, even if I go to like the movies, if I go to the movies by myself, I can totally get that sort of like Twilight moodiness. And I don't know if this got brought up because you were reading the book, or if I said before or after, or like when this whole, what the chronological order of events was. Yeah. But I was feeling the Twilight mood very recently, like a couple days ago, or like yesterday or something like that. And I was so surprised. I was like, wow, I haven't felt the Twilight mood in like so long. I cannot remember. But it feels so nice. It feels so good. It makes me want to watch the movies again.
It was funny because when you said that to me, I had been thinking that on the opposite end of that, I hadn't had that in such a long time. And it's a thing that reminds me a lot of like being in school and stuff, and those times when I think I remember being like that a lot, in particularly one semester in school, in college, where I had to read a lot for a lit class.
Right, and reading. Yes, that also brings it up.
So there was this space, like it was small. And it was like a loungy area where you could go and play video games and like work if you wanted to, but there was like an Xbox and a couple of TVs. And there were puffs, so I would go and just like be there reading by myself. So that sort of environment also puts me like a lot in that mood. But I think it had been years maybe since I had thought about it, or like
it's insane.
Felt like, oh, this is like Twilight moody. And because for me it does have it's kind of funny, which is part of the thing that I was like hesitant about is you know, I don't think of myself as someone very corny or anything, but the Twilight mood,
I am the corny one
have like
here.
Yes. So whenever I am in like that mood, for me it's like, oh Jesus, I'm like all over the place and being like, not like in the same sense of when you're in love with someone and you're like in cloud nine and daydreaming, that kind of thing. It's more like I'm feeling corny, I would say, is the feeling.
That is such a new color
like
for you.
Added. I know. So I was thinking about that, like when you told me that, oh yeah, I'm the Twilight mood, whatever, and I was like, oh, that's so funny, because I had this thing a couple months back maybe when I was like, oh, I remember that was so much fun, because it was fun, which is another interesting thing that I don't know that we had necessarily mentioned. Yeah, that it was fun. That we would talk about it and be like, oh my god, yes, Twilight mood. And so I was thinking about it and I was like, I really want to go back into that mood for a little bit.
I know, right? Like, it feels good.
Yeah. But then I couldn't, and I was even writing down some stuff, like journaling, and I think I said something like, I am sort of in that space, but instead of it being this feeling of like enjoying my lonesomeness, I'm like running away from it. Like I don't know.
What do you
I'm
mean?
not enjoying it necessarily.
But like the Twilight mood is what you're not enjoying?
No. But that's the thing. It's not quite a Twilight mood sort of thing.
Because you're not
enjoying it. I'm more like, ugh. You know? It's not being nice. It's making me feel weird and unmotivated and sad and yeah.
Do you feel like that's coming from somewhere in particular?
Well, I don't know. I don't think so. No, maybe.
I mean, if anything, maybe I'm thinking that because we're planning on all of these things and we're trying to figure out how to get you to Canada, it's kind of like, I don't know if to say stressing you out, but, you know, kind of messing up with the Twilight mood, you know?
Yes, a little bit. Well, you know what also, which I'm kind of reluctant to say.
Let's see what she has to say.
Is this thing that specifically on the like romance aspect of it, which I was reading it and I was having so much fun, as I said to you while I was reading it, that I was laughing.
Oh, your book? Yes.
It's hilarious. Then afterwards I was like, oh, I want to have that feeling of falling for someone. But, well, pandemic and all.
Not helping.
You know? So that was one of the things that I was thinking. And within all these ideas of like going to Canada and stuff, I was thinking, you know, like that'll be good because it'll give me an opportunity again to like go out and hang out with people and meet new people as well and be with my friends and stuff and like socialize more.
I wish I can also get to that part because right now there's none of that happening. But hopefully once we're all there.
And so I was sort of thinking like this whole thing, I cannot talk today. I don't know what's wrong with me. Well, this whole thing came about because of, I was thinking about the book and stuff, and I was like, oh man, what it is to fall in love with someone. And I started reminiscing and being like, oh, Jesus.
I mean, do you remember what it was like?
Yeah,
I do. It's not necessarily cool.
No, I know.
It's not very nice, actually.
That was exactly what I was thinking. I was like, oh, Jesus. It's kind of, like, there's a really cool, exciting part about it, but there's also the,
there is.
The whole,
but, like,
oh, it's terrible.
Yeah. I think it is. I am way more enjoying this, like, afterwards stage of just, like, being lovey-dovey and whatever without the whole drama of the... the beginnings of it, where it's like, well, I don't know, well, what if? And it's just like a whole mess of things. And like, no, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Because it was, so, I don't know that, I don't know that we've talked about this, maybe probably we have, but my point here is that the last time I fell for someone, it took me forever
to get over it.
Forever to get over it. Yeah. So, but then like being in this brink of being in the Twilight mood and then reading and watching romancy stuff, I'm like, oh, I want that again. But then the sane part of my brain is like, no, you don't. Like, Jesus.
It's a trap.
Yeah, exactly. Don't fall for it.
That's why it's called falling in love.
I know. But then, like, okay, so this, you talking about feeling like in the Twilight mood thing was like 2 days ago. And then I think this morning I was saying to you that I was like in that mood or something. So now, contrary to like yesterday when I was feeling sad-ish and not necessarily like this melancholic state, I think now I am closer to that.
Yay.
Like to the actual Twilight mood. Except for the fact that here it is really hot. Not at all.
Not helping.
Wintry or no, yeah. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I think I'm all over the place a little bit.
Not as much as you think, probably.
So I don't know. Have you anything to say about that?
Well, I think we have established that falling in love is not as nice as people make it out to be. And you know, like, I had a conversation about this with Pablo because I was having such a hard time in that stage of our relationship. And when we talked about this, it was very much like I wanted to run and he was just walking. And I'm like, get here already. But he wasn't, you know? So it was like very frustrating for me. And because we were like in different stages of our lives. And he was looking for something else and I was looking for something else. And it was just very messy kind of at the beginning, even though it was like a very good time. We were having a lot of fun. You know, that wasn't the issue. My issue was like when we were together, it was great. When we were not, like when we were not going out, because at the beginning, I think we were going out like once a week. So that one day that I saw him, it was like great and amazing and the most fun. But then the rest of the week, it was just frustrating. And I was like, what is this? What is happening? What do I want? What does he want? Where are we? Where am I? Like, you know, it was super messy. And I ended up writing something to him about how I had this sort of mental picture, kind of almost a movie of like going down this path, and I was going really fast and he was like in the back trying to walk, and I was like trying to get him by the hand and like rushing him, and he's like, I don't want to, like, that's not what I'm doing. And then I was like, fine. So I would slow down, and then I would see this sort of hole in the ground, very cartoony, with like a bunch of arrows pointing down, being like, love is down here. But it's a hole in the ground. And it's like, ooh, like, Pablo, come on, let's go in there. And Pablo's like, no, thank you. That no. And then I was like, yeah, this does look like a trap. And part of me and my brain was very like, I feel like I was fighting this falling in love feelings. You know, this sort of romanticized stage of the butterflies and the imagining our future together, quote unquote, and things like that. You know, the mainstream sort of idea of falling in love. And like, I wanted to go there, but Pablo wouldn't let me just because he wouldn't come with me, kind of thing. And in what I wrote, I end up saying, you know, like, I thank you. I am happy that I didn't go down that hole, because every time I've done it before, it didn't turn out good. Yeah. But because you weren't willing to go down the hole with me, I didn't go either. And I think it helped us take it easier on our relationship. And I think that's why it's a lot more sturdy, kind of, than previous relationships I've had. And maybe that's why right now I have a bit of a I don't know what to call it. Like, I'm not very pro on the whole falling in love thing. But that's because it's my latest experience. And yeah, that's, you know, kind of where I'm coming from.
Well, I am no expert either at all. If anything, you have a lot more experience than I do.
I'm telling you, falling in love is a trap. That's at least, you know, this is what I mean. The falling in love thing very much feels like a trap. And that's why I'm very thankful that things with Pablo didn't work out that way. They had to work out a different way. And it's just been a lot nicer, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I sort of, now you're making me like ponder and stuff.
Yeah,
because I do get the romantic part of the Twilight mood. I do get it. And it's like seeing, watching the movies, and like Edward and this whole thing. But I feel like it's part of wanting to be part of this story, kind of like, because whenever I'm in the Twilight mood, it feels like I get this atmosphere of like being in a movie, that's kind of how it feels.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're walking down the street, if you're going to a coffee shop, that's the scene in the movie where you're going down the street and going into a coffee shop. Yeah. So I think that's what we want.
Our own movie.
Out of it. Yeah.
No, yeah. Yeah. I think it's kind of funny that you're saying that. Because and I don't think I'm alone in this, like in the world. I think probably other people can tell me that they have thought about this. Mm-hmm. But there's times of, I think it's even a joke, but I think there's times in life when you can sort of realize, oh, this is like a movie moment. So to me, that feels like a lot of fun. And like, I think it's something that inspires me when I'm thinking of, oh, I want to write this story. And I have this picture in my head. And it can be either something that I am doing or something that I see somebody else doing. Mm-hmm. But for sure, that's one of the components of the Twilight mood thing of like, it's kind of like feeling self-important, but yeah, like
I can see that, especially like, because of like it's my movie kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's like, oh yeah, I'm walking down the sidewalk, heading to the coffee shop, and it's raining, and I'm the start of the movie. Of course, 100%. Yeah. But also, this thing that you were saying about like feeling like you're part of the story. I also thought about how, and I think I said it before, of this being in the movie part for me also means that, especially in these movies that trigger the Twilight Zone, because I would say it's specifically Twilight, specifically books like these, like if you're reading, I don't know.
For like young adult kind of stuff.
It's always like, it's a first experience and it's the first time where you're doing this. And it's like that level of excitement and uncertainty that entails. Yeah. And I feel like I find myself sort of chasing that. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of, I mean, we're not that old, right? But I think I'm just, my point here is, as you get older, as you get older, you sort of lose those new things. The more things you do, and the more, like, not necessarily that there's nothing new to try, because there always will be something new to try. But the approach to that maybe is not as eager as it could have been when you're like... Yeah.
I hope the day doesn't come where I don't get excited by going to the airport.
Oh, yes.
I really, like, it makes me so happy. I'm just like, please, like, I want to travel a lot. Yeah. But I never want to lose that feeling of when I'm going to the airport. Yes. You know what I mean? Like, it's just... Yeah.
So that's magical. That's my point. That, like, that's, as I was reading the book and I was like, oh, yeah. I think they said at some point something about when you're jealous but you should watch out for like your reaction to jealousy or something like that. And I was like, oh yeah, that is such like a teenage lesson to learn or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then it made me think of this whole, which is why I said to you, sometimes it's a little bit cringy because you read it and I'm like, oh, stupid teenagers, or at least I am like that. Yeah. But it's that thing of, no matter how long it's like it's been or whatever, I wanted to still feel like exciting and new and like an adventure. And I was reading this book, which could be my recommendation, maybe. I had another idea, but I was reading this book called I don't know what the name is in English. Oh, The Soul of a Woman, and
that sounds intriguing.
It's nothing to do with the title in Spanish, by Isabel Allende, and it's like a collection of essays and reflections on feminism and womanhood and like
that sounds important to the journey
life.
I've been having.
Yes, it does. And she's writing about life from the perspective of I think, I don't know, she's like 60 something, 70 something, I'm not sure. Of like what her life has been like and her experiences with feminism and as a writer and as a mother. And so at some point, like halfway through the book, she says that she is in love in her 70 somethings. And she never, like, she's always sort of chased that feeling of falling in love or like of being in love because she loves it. And I just thought that was so cute, like that feeling of chasing the excitement and the newness and the like emotions that come with those experiences. And I just thought it was pretty cute. And I was like, oh, that sounds nice. I want to be like that, you know, when I'm 70 something. I still want to be excited about trying new things and meeting new people and going new places, which of course it's not going to be as easy as when you're 20, right? But so that was like one of my takeaways from that.
Because I like, you've been repeating yourself saying about chasing. And I like it, you know, because I think maybe it has to do with what we were saying about how the Twilight mood used to happen to us a lot. And lately, in the past few years, it hasn't. And I don't know if it's like this natural idea of aging or like a different stage of life where we went from teens to young adults, or like what it is about. Or maybe it's, you know, pandemic and college and who knows what. But I like this idea of chasing it. Maybe it won't come as easy as it used to, but if we're still willing to go for it and try to get back into it, you know, if it's on purpose, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not like, you know, because maybe we could fall into this idea of like, oh, I haven't been feeling in the Twilight mood and I miss it, but I guess it's just not here. It's not happening. But I like that we can chase it. We can try to find it. We can, you know, watch the movies. We can read a book. We can find it in like the nooks and crannies of our life. And I think that's good. And I think that's healthy of like not losing sight of that. Because right now thinking about it and I'm like, I haven't been feeling the Twilight mood in forever. And it makes me think about my relationship with Pablo in like the past couple of years. That it's been to some extent centered, you know, like a lot of my effort and my day-to-day thoughts are very centered in our relationship and on him and me together and all of that. Which is in no way like a burden. It's just like the nature of how things have developed. But just recently that I was feeling in the Twilight mood, I was like, I miss this so much. And it makes me kind of like come back to myself in a way that I hadn't in a long time. So I'm like, I'm going to take note of this and try to come back to the Twilight mood whenever I find myself missing it. You know what I mean?
No, that's funny.
That's
funny. The like oppositeness of our situations then, I would say.
How so?
Because what happened to me in this case was well, I've been single, let's say for 3 years. Anyway,
that's 2 years of pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I've never had an actual boyfriend. The last time I was like something
Involved.
Yeah, and that's in some way was like 3 years ago. So the past 2 years were like, I'm fine, whatever. I don't need to date anybody. I don't really want to date anybody. Like, my life is so weird and such a mess that I have no time for this.
Yeah.
But then lately, as I have been in this sort of on my own, doing my stuff, being super focused, and I keep thinking about this thing that my grandpa told me when I was starting high school. And he was like, don't have a boyfriend in high school. And I was like, what?
Why?
Which for me, by the way, was going to be a very interesting time because I had always been in a girls only school. So this was like, I'm going to be in school with boys.
Yeah.
And so that has like always been in the back of my mind. Like don't have a boyfriend in high school. Don't have a boyfriend in college because they'll distract you, or something like that. Which I can see how it might distract you.
I mean, but they do anyways, if they're your boyfriend or if they're not.
Yeah. But the point here is, like, now that I'm feeling super focused, the way he wanted me to be, I'm like, yeah, but there's still times when I'm like, oh, I want to go out and have fun. And, like, it's always, I mean, sometimes it can be, I want to go out with my friends. Like, those times when before you went to Canada, we started going out again as a group of friends, and it was so much fun and all of that. But then I was thinking, so after this whole thing of, like, stop being in love, falling out of love with someone. So after, it took me forever to fall out of love, I had this feeling of not liking anybody for a very long time. And until very recently, I started, like, seeing guys again. I'm like, I like him, And that, and I feel like that's such an interesting
looking cute
thing. Yeah. No, it just felt really interesting to me because I had never had, like, a period of time where I was not liking anybody. Like, I feel like I've always been like, oh, he's cute. Oh, I kind of like him, And this whole thing, funnily enough, which is something that I wanted to talk about, I think one day, and you were like, why do you want to talk about it? And this is why. I wanted to tell you about Keanu Reeves. And you're like, what is it about Keanu Reeves?
I remember. So what about Keanu Reeves?
So that's the thing. I was watching this movie. My dad put it on. It's like from the 90s or something. So he's
Is
a
he
baby.
the one with Sandra Bullock? Because that was really fun.
No. It's with Charlize Theron.
Okay.
It's about, he's a lawyer. And the movie's called The Devil's Advocate. So it's supposedly a horror-ish movie, which is funny because it's like not at all, at least not today. So I was watching it and I was like, oh, he looks really cute. And then moment that I caught myself thinking that he was cute, I was like, oh my God.
Look at that.
Come back.
That's funny.
So, and then I was like, I went on, like anybody who likes an actor does, I guess. And I went online and I was, like, watching his interviews and, videos and stuff. And then all those memes about how he's, like, such a great human being and stuff. I think it is. Like, it is very true. He looks super mellow and super chill, and, like, you can have a very long philosophical conversation.
Like, you can have a beer with him.
Yes. And then the other day I was telling you that I started watching the Jack Ryan thing with my dad. Yeah. And I was also like, oh, John Krasinski's cute. Which is kind of funny because watching The Office, I would have never been like, oh, I like John Krasinski.
What? He's so
But
cute in the office.
He's funny. He's cute and funny, but it's not like I'm attracted to him kind of
I see
way,
that.
you know?
I see that.
So this whole thing basically is that that feeling of like regaining a part of myself, which I'm now excited to do something with, I guess.
Ooh, I like
point.
that. I like that. But you see, I'm not exactly sure. Like at the beginning, I was kind of seeing what you meant with like the differences, but now I kind of see it in a very similar way, where it's like we're both going back to ourselves.
Yeah, I
see
see that. Yes,
I'm a fan.
me too. Me too. And yeah, it's in spite of and I'm thinking, you know, like in the general sort of aspect of life, having that, and I think another thing that I don't know that we mentioned necessarily, but one of the reasons I think we started this Twilight mood thing was that at the time we were in that acting for film class, and we had to do that, like, how are you feeling today? And, you know, that, like, exploration of our feelings and why we feel things and stuff. And at least, I don't know that it was the same for you, but for me, that was, like, one of the sources of the Twilight Zone melancholy being not bad. That was one of the things that made it, like, cherishable moment sort of thing. The, like,
I don't know that it was for me that way. Because, so in like the timeline of my life, let's say that I was a kid and I was super extroverted and I thought I was Simba from The Lion King and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then at some point in my teens, like getting out of middle school, going into high school, I think especially when I started going to Canada, because the first time, not the first time, but like the second time that I went to Canada was just for a month. And it was a month I took off from school to go to a school in Canada to see if I wanted to do high school there. And that I don't think it was like the inception or the origin of the Twilight mood. I think it was always kind of there, but I became super like into I became so into this vibe. And I don't know if that's around when Twilight, the first one, came out. It might have been. And I very much adopted this kind of Isabella Swan feeling when I was away. Not like, yeah, like I mean, I totally did in this kind of like more shy, introverted way, don't want to mess with anybody kind of thing, want to keep to myself. Plus, I was in this Canadian school where I didn't know anybody, and there was this guy that was like really cool, and I kind of liked him, but like he had no idea who I was, so it doesn't matter. But I remember I was supposed to stay there for 4 weeks. The first 2 I stayed in school, and there was a group of like Colombian girl kids, not teens yet, but like kids, and they were visiting, and they took them to like a campsite. So they asked me and a couple of like a brother and a sister that traveled with me also from my school, but they were already in high school. And they were like, do you guys want to come for a weekend to the campsite? And we were like, sure. So we went, and it was like in this cabin, and they showed me how to make an igloo and like a bunch of stuff. And it was all snowed in the woods, and it just fed this whole idea of the Twilight mood atmosphere. So I feel like there's always been a sort of melancholy to my personality. that grew a lot during my teens.
Mm-hmm.
And then right now I feel like I'm more balanced between like that extroverted kid and that introverted teen. And like that's who I am now, kind of thing. Somewhere in between those two.
Oh, that's hilarious. You just made me like go back in time.
Why?
Because okay, so around the same time, and before we were friends, because we didn't know each other, because we were in like middle school. I would travel a lot between here with my grandparents in Mexico City with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
So during those like back and forth travels, I read a lot, and most of this like that time I was just like reading either Twilight or rereading it or reading something like it. And I had developed this sort of thing of being
very Isabella Swanee.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Like dramatic and melancholic, and I even tried to like, I kind of liked the way she dressed in some of the movies. Like I think especially New Moon, I copied one of the outfits, I'm pretty sure. And so I was feeling very much like that, along with that sense of like, oh, this is my movie.
Yeah.
But the thing about acting for film is that when we had that class, it was the moment where I learned to put a name on the whole cherishing being sad thing. Because before it
like
was
that's
just
what
like,
is that what you understand like by melancholy, like sweet sadness, like enjoyable sadness?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, me too.
So it was like it's okay to
enjoy your sadness.
Enjoy your sadness and to explore where it comes from and to see where it takes you and that kind of thing. But for sure the teenage years. So it's I don't know, it's kind of funny the way you're saying it, like this combination of you who is like extroverted kid and then introverted teenager, because I am not like that. I don't think I'm as introverted as you are at all.
I don't think so either.
I think I have my moments.
Yeah, but I think you're a lot more extroverted than I am.
Yeah. But those like moments of being shy, I think kind of remind me of that of like that time of being on my own and like reading and not talking to anybody. And
what about when you went to Sweden? Did you get super Twilighty then? I feel like I would have.
I thought of that just now when you were saying it at the beginning. I was like, no, I did not get that at all.
Not at all? Like traveling to a foreign land.
Maybe.
By yourself.
Maybe at the beginning. Because it was super snowy, and I remember that outside my apartment there was a park with a bunch of trees, so it was all like snowy and pretty. But mostly I was scared shitless at the beginning. I was like, where am I? I don't know anybody. Were? Yeah, the first day I was freaking out. I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? Why did I do this? Why did I come here?
Really? I feel, that's so interesting, because I feel like that's not my vibe at all whenever I did stuff like that. It was always more exciting.
Oh, yeah.
Than scary.
It is. So, like, I don't know. I think I've told you this, but the very first day. So, the trip started with me flying from here to New York with, at first, not being able to land in New York because there was a blizzard or something. So I had to land in Philly, take a bus from Philly to New York, stay there for one more day, and then take my flight from New York to Frankfurt, and then take a mini flight from Frankfurt to Sweden.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. So
see, but to me, that sounds so much like a movie.
Yeah, I know. I'm writing it. Don't worry. So that whole thing threw me off. Like, I already had, like, this day planned for, because I would be in Frankfurt one day and then have my flight the next day, so I would have like that gap. And then when the whole thing started being weird, I was like, oh my god, okay, it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna figure it out. It's whatever. But it was very different. And the other thing that was like that threw me off was that when I got there at the airport, I was the only one there. And I it's like I didn't know where to go, and then I saw this sign that was like Jönköping School students, and so I went there, and this guy drove me to my apartment, and I got to my apartment, and there was this it was like twin buildings. So I went up the stairs and went to the right, and I went to like apartment 11, and I put my key in and it didn't work. And I was like, what is this? So this girl opens the door and she's like, hi. And I said, hi, I think I'm your roommate. And she's like, I don't have a roommate. And I was like, what? What is this? So I checked the number and it was 11B instead of 11A. Okay, and so I just had to like go around and, you know. So I opened the door. I got my key, unlocked the door and got in. And there was nobody. My roommate was not there. She had arrived, but she left to go on some trip or something. So I go in and I start looking around, and there's a bunch of stuff in the kitchen and in the bathroom. Everything is in Russian. So I'm like, oh, my roommate's Russian. And then I had no Wi-Fi and my phone wasn't working. And
oh, Jesus.
So I was like carrying my 2 huge ass bags up the stairs and putting them inside and having this, because it was a studio apartment. So it was just like her bed and then I guess what was going to be my bed because I couldn't choose, right? And then there's like a table and I was like, okay, all right, I'm here. And then I couldn't call anybody because I had no Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And there was this point of like, what the fuck am I doing here? I'm all alone. Everything, and I don't know why, I'm pretty sure it was not dark. I had turned on the lights, but in my mind, it just looks black. Because also, I got there at night. And I think it was like 8 p.m. or something, but sunset was around 5. So it was like super dark. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? Why did I do this? And then the next day, because that was a Sunday, right before the beginning stuff was starting, the introduction week, and that first day I woke up and I had no idea where the school was. I mean, I had a map and I knew how to get there, but I think I got lost at some point, either on the way there or back. I think on the way back. And I went back to my apartment after like the whole introduction and stuff, and there was a party that night, or a welcoming event. And I went back to the apartment, I fell asleep, and I woke up super late, so I had to like run back to the school for the event thingy, which I was very late to. And then I got there, I found some people that I knew from the introduction thing, and that day ended out being really fun. And they had this whole thing going on for like the people, like the person of the day, like the newbie of the day, and I was the first newbie of the day, which cheered me up a lot. And then on my way back, that was very Twilight moody, and I was thinking like about the day and the travel and the whole adventure. And I remember very clearly as I was walking up this like hill on that park that was in front of my apartment, that I was thinking, oh wow, this was such a long day. Like it took forever to get through the day, but the semester is gonna go by so quickly, and it did. So that's like, you know, something that is very deeply ingrained in my brain now, of the, like, even if the beginning of the adventure seems super scary and like I want to bail, it's going to go by in a flash and it's going to be a blast, and it has been.
See, whenever you're getting those feelings about coming to Canada, I'm going to be like, remember Sweden? Just come here.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there.
Yes, because we need to record these in the same room.
Yes, that would be a lot more fun.
Yeah.
And a lot less interruptions.
Probably.
And technical problems. So, well, yeah.
That was very interesting. I was not sure where the Twilight mood topic was going to take us, but
me neither.
I really like it. My favorite part has to be the moment where I was like, whatever our difference of experiences, it is bringing us back to ourselves.
Yeah.
That was just like, that like I'm a fan.
I'm a fan as well. And I like it. I seriously, there was a point where I was looking at the timer and I was like, what else are we going to talk about for the rest of this episode? This was not very well planned. But I also like where it took us. And, also that thing that you said at the beginning of, we have never defined it or we have never said what it is to each of us.
I'm not, actually, I would love to remember when we first talked about it and how it became a thing between us. Because it has been such a thing of ours since the beginning that I'm like, where, how, when,
I keep going back to that summer of reading / watching
Twilight all the time.
Either, yeah. But it must have been when one of the last two movies came out. Probably the...
Part 1.
How many is it? Yeah. Yeah, because then we were super excited to watch the last one, so...
Breaking down part 2. I think part 1... I was going to say maybe part 1 is my favorite one.
Of the whole thing?
Definitely Breaking Dawn is my favorite of the movies. Like, both of the movies are my favorite. But I remember that when I read the books, Eclipse was my favorite.
Yeah,
but maybe I need to reread them again and see how I feel. But movie-wise, Breaking Dawn are my favorite ones. I recommend
rereading them. I tried that recently, the first year of the pandemic. And it was a lot more cringy than it was funny. It was quite funny. It was very, very funny.
Well, I would like to read them in English because I only read them in Spanish.
Oh, you did? Well, I guess you can do. Yeah, you can read it in English.
That will make it different.
I read, which started this whole first wanting to get back to the Twilight mood, what's the name of it? Edward's version of Twilight came out.
Oh, Midnight Sun.
Yes. And so I read it, like the day it came out or something. And it's a
I remember years ago when addition. A few chapters or the first chapter or something got leaked. Yes. Yeah. And it was so exciting and so cool. And now that the book's out, it's like, oh wow, that was a thing. I don't think I read it. I don't remember. Did I read it?
The Midnight Sun thing?
Yeah.
When the actual full thing, now that it just come out, or the
did it just come out? Leak? Or years ago?
2 years ago? During the pandemic, I'm pretty sure.
Then maybe I haven't read it. But I do remember when it leaked, I read it. Yes, you can.
Well, yeah. So what's your recommendation for today? Do you have one?
I mean, I could, I'm it has nothing to do. It's so random to our topic. But I've been listening to the Michelle Obama book.
Audiobook?
Becoming, yeah. And it's nice. It's so far, I think I like the Alicia Keys more. But you know what? Okay, so because I've been on this roll of listening to people's audiobooks.
Yeah.
I make a point of knowing what I'm getting from each of them. And this one, I'm not done yet. I'm a little more than halfway through. It has been giving me such a sense of community and doing something for because I don't know, this can be at the next cup of tea, by the way. I don't know if this is just something personal because of my family, or if it's even a Mexican thing. Maybe that's a stretch, but at least it has been my experience in my general life that we're not very sort of politically involved. And almost not like, I don't want to say that we don't care, but I was definitely not taught to care about my community and thinking of like, what are the ways that I can improve things and what can I do? So it's been very inspiring in that sense. Plus, I love that a lot of the things that they say and how they say it just makes me think of Hamilton. And I'm like, oh, lovely.
Yeah. You
Loving
mentioned
it. Yes. So that's my rec. If someone's wanting to get that feeling that I'm getting from it, that would be my rec.
That's cool. I like the idea for a new cup of tea. Well, mine, as I mentioned before, is The Soul of a Woman by Isabel Allende, who
Do you have that electronic or like
No,
ebook?
I bought it.
Oh, because I was going to be like, can you send that to me? That looks good.
Fine.
Yeah,
it's very short.
It.
It's very fast. I think I read it in like 2 days or something. And it's pretty cool. It's about like feminism and womanhood, and she talks a little bit about like her history, like her family history and her personal history, and bit of politics. She wrote it during the pandemic, so she mentions that as well. And it's cool. It's not at all, I would say, a memoir. But it has some like fragments of her life and stuff, and it has like funny moments and sad moments and romantic moments, and
it sounds good.
Nice.
Like I'm gonna get it.
Yes, get it.
Alrighty. Well, it was a very nice cup of tea. I'm very happy with how it turned out.
Me too.
I hope that our listeners would be. I hope someone tells me, like, I totally know what the Twilight mood is, and maybe they have a different name for it, or maybe they can share their own experience, or maybe someone's like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I didn't know that was a thing. So I'm intrigued. I hope that, they share that with us. I guess with, like, I don't know, because I was going to say, like, but I don't know if that's where they want to share stuff. I don't know how this works. So wherever you guys want to share this with us, just go ahead.
You can send us a message at acodcast on Instagram, because we're never going to have Twitter.
I mean, I don't know that we're never going to have Twitter. Maybe when we have a person that handles the Twitter. Yeah. We're not very Twitter savvy. Yeah. So.
Anyway, we will see you next week with maybe something about politics and community.
Yeah, maybe. Or whatever comes next.
Thanks for sharing a cup of tea with us. To watch more episodes of A Cup of Tea, click the link on the right. If you want to watch Pockets in the Universe, go to the playlist on the left.